How are
Hey,
you?
Tom. Well, doing good, Tom, and your good self. Everything's safe?
You know what? Holding on the best we can. At some point, they'll let me out of this room, and then everything will be grand. Until then, you look good. You
I'm
got a
rooting for you.
mandolin there and everything like that. Things are pretty good for you, it seems.
It's not so much a matter. It's a vintage Gibson. It's 1916 Gibson guitar. It's called the Gibson.
Pre Lloyd Loar, pre Bill Monroe mandolin.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just it's middle of the First World War. That's all I know.
Can I say this to you? You made a great record. You made a great AC/DC record. I really loved listening to it.
Well, thanks, me son. When we did get into the studio after all the things that had happened, and that was a sort of minor miracle in itself. And to be back with all the boys, and and sometimes the feeling, right from the start, because when Malcolm had passed, and we wanted really to make this a tribute to Malcolm. The man. He was our leader and friend, but it was him that started our AC/DC idea of making a sound that was different from anybody else. That's what he wanted to do at the start. And when he got his brother Angus in with him, and he kept that all the way through his life, and there was no better way to give him tribute than to make him proud. Although he's not with us, he was everywhere in that studio. He was he touched every one of us. And we're not, please don't think we're spiritual, and we're not. It was there. And we knew we had to come up to the occasion. And Malcolm and Angus had written some songs that they hadn't finished. And Angus brought them to the studio, and he just said, listen, this is what we got. Me and Malcolm had written 10 years earlier, and they just weren't finished, for Black Ace and all of them. And so we knew we had to do something special for Malcolm, and it was right from the get-go. Brendan O'Brien, the producer, he's so positive, and he loved Mal as well. And so we wanted it, not just Malcolm, but his family and all the fans to know that we tried that little bit, more special this time. We'll always try our best, but this, I don't know how to explain it. It was just a special feeling of, just bonding over all those years and of friendship. And we'll remember Malcolm's cry, just keep the music honest. Don't put any sides on it. Don't try to embroider it. Just keep it honest. And I think we did that, and we just wanted it to be fresh, and so, there you go. That's a short, synopsis of how we did it.
You must have thought. You must have thought at some point you might never get another one.
Oh, absolutely. This to me was probably one of the happiest days of my life. That first day, I can say it now when we all walked into that studio, and it just felt comfortable. It felt just like it always was. It was like nothing had happened. And, except, we'd lost Malcolm, and we'd met at Malcolm's funeral in Sydney and talked after the ceremony with the family, and all were together. And it just seemed so natural that we were together. And we're still here. We think Mal had a big hand in getting back together again. He wasn't going to let it lie down.
I didn't know if you were going to be back. I didn't know if you were going to be on another AC/DC, if there was going to, because you were off the road there with the hearing loss. You didn't go on the road there. You had to pull out of the Rock or Bust World Tour. I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you.
Oh, no, neither could I. It was. There were black days. That's all I can tell you. There was nothing. Plus, my best friend died the same week at a very young age of cancer, and it just hit me like a double whammy. But thankfully, I sort of just thought, my age, I've had a great life, and it's nothing terminal. Let's face it. Think of all the people who are really, in trouble. So, I just thought I'd get through it. But then this technology came to my rescue. Really, wonderful man called Stephen Ambrose.
It was a YouTube video, wasn't it? He posted up a YouTube video.
Well, yeah, it was just a photograph and a message. He just said, "I want to get in touch with Brian Johnson because I think," he said, "I know I have the technology to get him back on stage," and it was just too good enough. I was a little wary in case somebody was trying to cash in on the situation. I couldn't have been more wrong. He's just the most wonderful, dedicated man. And he came down and he spent a couple of nights at the house here, and he got all his equipment out and we started working, and immediately I noticed the difference, and it was just phenomenal. And we worked for about 2.5, 3 years, coming down every 3 months, and we had to miniaturize it so we could actually get it behind the ear and in the ear. And because it was like a car battery when he first came down, it was ridiculous.
You'll be pulling along with a cart on stage while you're.
Oh no, I'm getting over here. But and it worked, and thank God for that. And I never thank him enough. And he's a good friend now, and we hope it'll help a lot of other people in my situation at the time. And I'm talking about other rock and roll people who I'm now in touch with, and we'll be helping them as well.
And they don't talk about the hearing loss in rock and roll. They don't talk about hearing loss in rock and roll very much,
No, they don't. It's the price you pay. It's the price you pay. It's industrial. Let's put it that way. The hearing aids that we used to have to put in, they were just making it worse. Right. But there's a lot of people out there, Tom, my son, a lot of guys who are suffering, with it. But hopefully this will be able to help all these people,
Tell me about the moment you were able to, after all of this, you were able to play music with the band again. How did that feel? Where were you?
It was in Holland. We had just shot the video, and Angus, God bless him, he said, leave us in Brian Steen's way. Yeah, we can get the whole kit up, all the back line up, and we can do some rehearsals, just check your stuff and see if it works.
Yeah.
And I said, that would be great. So, they put the whole back line up, the real touring back line. It's real, by the way. There's no fake ones in there. And and Angus said, he said, well, listen, we'll start a little quiet and we'll build it up. And I said, no, Ang, it has to be full battlefield conditions. Otherwise, it's just not worth it. I never want to be in that position.
What do you mean,
again.
Battlefield conditions?
So, full on. It's just, full rock, just like on stage, just like on a show. Okay. In the front line, there's no hiding, And he just said, he said, what do you want to do? And I said, Back in Black. Oh, he went, okay. And off we went. And I could hear everything. Everything.
How'd you feel?
I was jumping around like a big kid. You couldn't stop me singing. We did 15 days in a row. And Angus said, I've never seen you rehearse so much. I said, I can keep going forever. I'm enjoying the hell out of this. It was like being reborn. It was just fantastic. You could hear everything. You could hear the guitars. That was the main thing I couldn't hear. And you could hear the guitars. And it was just, oh, man, I cannot tell you how good that felt as a vocalist who depends on the tone of the guitars and what you hear. And the boys were just thrashing it out. And I suddenly realized what I'd been missing. It's a big part of life, listening to music, That's why you guys are there.
Yeah, that's it, boy. That's the reason I exist, is really just to listen to music. I find it interesting that you chose Back in Black as the first song. I find that interesting.
Well, it's the toughest to sing, and
really?
It's the hardest. And there's no hiding place in Back in Black. Okay, there's no big. It's just right out there, and everybody can tell if you're cheating or not. And there's no hiding place. it's a toughie.
I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I want to play this from the new record. Take a listen to this. That is the great AC/DC. I'm talking to Brian Johnson about the band's brand new album, Power Up. That song is Shot in the Dark. And as I said to you off the top, and if you weren't listening off the top, I'll tell you what I said to Brian Johnson. I said, it's a great AC/DC record. It's a great AC/DC record, and it sounds like an AC/DC record. And you said something after that when you were talking about Malcolm that stuck with me. You said, you know, Malcolm would always say it has to be unadorned. It has to be simple. It has to be to the point. And when I was listening to the record, I thought, hey, this is a great AC/DC record, and there got to be something to it. Like, there got to be the ingredients that are needed for specifically a great AC/DC song. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you know, Angus always said about Malcolm, this is just the slow way to answer your question. He said, whenever you looked over, you always, when he wasn't looking, he always imagined there was two people playing guitar. But it was just that. It was just Malcolm. And he said it was always there for him. And I must admit, it was something about Malcolm, the way, and as Angus would say, he was such a technically brilliant player. And he hit the hell out of that guitar. He never compromised. And Angus will explain as well, the first record on the album is Realize. Okay, that's the first number one record on the album. And I remember Angus and Malcolm always being so careful about the first record on the album because, as they said, the first bars of the guitar has to be, that's AC/DC, you know. And Malcolm used to speak about AC/DC like it was a separate entity. You know, that's an AC/DC song. No, he's not. That's an AC/DC riff. It was a vehicle that he was so proud to have invented, really. And he sometimes spoke of it in the third person. And, you know, it was, and that's what we did. We realized, you know, the weirded, you know, Angus was just weird. And he said, you know, I have basically a conversation in my head with Malcolm. You know, it's just going, well, what do you think of this? You know, and he said, when we got it, that song, when we finished that song set the standard and set the bar for the rest of the album. And if no song came up to that, to the excitement level, to the sound, well, then it just wasn't going to make the cut. Thankfully, all 12 songs that we had all made the cut. And, you know, and I don't know, I try to explain that sound and everything. I don't know, I keep saying the same thing and I can't find a better word. But the fact that it's just so honest. Yeah. You know, it's got no sides to it. It's not asking you to join a group. It's not asking, there's no hidden agenda in there. There's not, it's just honest. And in this world now, right this minute, the world, you know, honesty is a rare commodity. I mean, what with the elections and virus and all that's going on. Yeah. It seemed, you know, just a little happiness. And it was always tongue in cheek with AC/DC. You know, it was always a little mischievous. Yeah. You know, it was, you know, people ask what this means and what that means. And, you know, it's like asking Elvis Presley what, you ain't nothing but a hound dog. What does that mean? I don't know, ma'am. I just sing the song. You know, you know what I mean? It's one bubble, bum, 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 tutti, tutti. Excuse me, Mr. Richard, Mr. Little. But what does that mean? Well, hell, I don't know. I just sing it. And, you know, it's just mischief. It's rock and roll. It's free of all vices. You know what I mean? It's just free of all vices. it is what it is. It's supposed to make you happy. It's to make you forget stuff. But that's it. That's the world according to me, and I'm not that smart. So there you go.
Oh, go away. I think you're right about that, and it's nice to hear a rock record again, and it's nice to hear as you put it, like there's something unadorned about it. I mean, what you're seeing is what you're getting. You mentioned this song earlier, and I want to play it for you. You sound good, man.
But 5 points, name that too.
That, of course, is AC/DC and Back in Black, the first they recorded with my guest Brian Johnson after the death of their singer Bon Scott, and became one of the biggest albums in music history. As you put it earlier, that's the song that kind of has everything. It's the hardest song to sing. I was thinking about this, that you're about to put out this record, and I'm sure you're excited about it, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. How did you feel the night before that record came out? You must have had a couple of sleepless nights wondering if this is going to work out.
Well, I had about a sleepless 6 weeks before I heard it. We sort of did it in the Bahamas, in this wonderful, posh recording studio. I'd never been there in my life.
Yeah.
I was still just a working boy, basically. And after about 6 weeks, I said, it mustn't be that good. Because we never heard it. We did it so quickly. We just moved from song to song, especially me and Cliff and Phil. Martin and Angus were putting on different bits and all of this and stayed there for the mix. We couldn't afford it. They had to get us back out of there so it wouldn't cost money for hotels and stuff. And so we went back. And after about 6 weeks, I was thinking, it must have been crap because I haven't heard anything. And then one day, the mailman came with a big old vinyl, and that was I was staying with my mother and father at the time, and they didn't have a record player, so that was going, oh shit. And so I just couldn't play it. And it was strange. I had to go to our lead guitarist's house. He had a record player, so we heard it there.
Did you know it was going to work out? Like, I think you have one of the most unique stories in music history. In that the band was already doing well, the band was already a pretty huge force with hits all over the world, and you enter this band. And I can't imagine going like, I hope they like it. I hope they get it.
Yeah, it was, well, at least I've got 6 weeks in the Bahamas. I've never been there. I might get a bit of a tan.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really didn't know. I wasn't so much worried because, of course, I was ignorant of the whole big business and all of that. I just thought these guys were really good and they liked what they'd heard from me. So, I'll just give it the best shot, but it might not work out. Now, who knows in life? But it did work out. And, and I wasn't that dumb. I knew there was some special stuff coming out of there. The riffs, when we did, shook me all night long. And I did get a chance to hear that one. Mutt Lange had put a rough mix together, and he says, come on in, Brian, this is the song with it. And I must admit, I was impressed when I heard that. I just went, wow, that's good. Back in Black, I just heard a couple of choruses, and without the full backing vocals and all of that. There wasn't much on there, but shook me. I think that impressed me immediately. I thought that was a great rock and roll record,
Well, it's an interesting thing, and maybe we'll leave it on this because I think about you that you existed in your life as a musician without AC/DC at the beginning of your career, right? You weren't an AC/DC off the bat. You get brought into AC/DC. The band becomes like a massive, like one of the very few stadium rock bands in the entire world, one of the most influential bands in music history, and then you almost are done. You are almost gone from this band. I wonder if that brought you some pause, some reflection about how being an AC/DC has shaped who you are.
Absolutely. Of course it did. You know, it was... it had taken me from, you know, a life where I was happy, you know, and I did my own thing, and, you know, and certainly wasn't wealthy or anything like that. And I'd always wanted to do to be in a big band. You know, I'd flirted with it in the early 70s with Geordie. We'd had 3 or 4, you know, top 10 singles. You know, but that finished in 75 or something. And then, you know, there was 5 years where I was just playing in clubs and pubs and having a great time. I quite enjoyed it, you know, it was fun. And we were very popular up there. And then when this chance came, I thought, well, you know, and when I think back at that now, you know, when I was in this position where I couldn't go on, that's one of the times when I was saying, I sat there and I thought, you know, well, listen, you can't complain, Brian. You know, what a run you've had. It still hurt, you know, that I couldn't go on because I didn't want to go out like that as a, you know, as a casualty, as it were. And as I said, technology came to the rescue. But you know, it does give you pause for thought, and you think of all the great times that you'd had, the places you'd seen, and the wonderful people you'd met, in the fans, you know, just the noise they made, which will stay with you, stays with you forever. It really does. So, you know, it's a great, you know, it's a great check. You know, you can, and then you just don't expect. It's whatever, you know, what happened next, you just don't expect it. And I just, you know, thank me lucky stars it did happen. And we did such a good job. I think we did anyway.
I think you did a spectacular job. And I think we're going to be singing these songs for decades to come. Brian, thanks for your time today.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tom, son.